everybody. This is Carol Muleta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast. Today, we are going to dive into the transformative power of creative expression and the arts and how they can revolutionize the way we parent. I am joined by the phenomenal Tamyra, Miss TeeKay Kumoji. She is a Baltimore native and a powerhouse in the arts world. She's a mother with 3 daughters who have very unique personalities. She's also an artist, and she's an early childhood educator. Miss TeeKay has spent years blending art and parenting in order to foster emotional intelligence, resilience, and healing. So in this conversation, we're going to explore how parents can use arts as a tool for self-expression, stress relief, and connection, both for themselves as well as for their children. So whether it's storytelling, music, painting, or simply finding mindful moments in your day, Miss TeeKay is going to share some practical, heartfelt advice to help you nurture your child's creativity while embracing your own. So get ready to be inspired with insights and tips that will bring more joy, balance, and artistry into your parenting journey. So come on for the ride. Welcome, Ms. TeeKay.
Hey, everyone.
So thank you for joining me. I think this is definitely an important topic and just a fun topic because I can actually remember how trying to spend time with my children, trying to teach them things really helped me to get in touch with my artistic side. So I am looking forward to you sharing your ideas. Talk about how did you get started in the arts?
My parents, my mother was an artist. She did a lot of creative activities with me as a child. The activities that she would help me with, it actually was one of my coping mechanisms that I used to help me cope with different things. My mom, she was mentally ill. And so although she was mentally ill, I watched how even with her mental illness, she coped by using art. She was a cosmetologist. I would go to fashion shows and I just was always surrounded by artistic individuals. And so that was a way that I had to cope even with dealing with my mom.
Okay. And so let's talk about how can art help children express and understand their emotions, especially during particularly challenging times, like you described some challenging times yourself.
Yeah, it's actually a nonverbal, emotional, intelligent way of dealing with issues. It's an outlet that you can use to just to cope. One way that I've always used was like putty. And when I would be little, and even now, like as you can see, this is not for my children. This is for me.
Okay, all
So
right.
they actually, they'll actually come upstairs and they'll actually take a piece of the putty. But it was something that is like, something that deals with your hands. And so it's like when you're even at work, when I was working, I would just use the putty to on a telephone call or something like that. And so I always had like artsy stuff around, like markers and crayons and papers, just have it handy so that the kids could reach it, but also if I could reach it as well. So.
And so what are some ideas that you have for simple things that parents can do to bond and connect with their children during the day? Because I think a lot of us think when you were talking about art that, we're going to have to bring out all of the paints and we've got to lay something down so we don't mess up the carpet or we don't mess up the couch or the table, the countertops. So we say, we'll do it another day. Like it's too hard. So let's make it simple to bring art into the day without having to feel like it always involves a bunch of supplies.
Sure. So one Easy way, which is very simple, is the art of storytelling.
Okay.
We know that when we were younger, culturally, storytelling has been something that has always been very influential to us.
Mm-hmm.
Children, we are their role models. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
always see us as this is who I want to be when I grow up. And so telling them about when you were a child, different stories, especially like when they come in from school. There's a lot of bullying in school and different things like that. So, like sitting down, being very simple with it, even cooking. I
Mm-hmm.
like to use like food coloring when you cook, have some like cookie cutters, like, and just have the kids just work with you in the kitchen. But
Mm-hmm.
storytelling during that time, like I did this with my grandmother, telling them stories about even celebrities that were actually people that influenced you, and and
Mm-hmm.
that was a role model to you. And so
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
storytelling was really, really big in my household.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
I know.
also a poet, so
Oh, poet. Yes, that's
yeah.
right. You are. So I know you talk about how art can be used as a therapeutic tool to help with behavior challenges and emotional struggles that children may be having or that parents may be having in interacting with their children. So talk about that.
I think one in particular thing that comes to mind is the feelings chart. And the
Okay.
feelings chart is actually good even for adults. Like in all of these activities are actually just versatile. So they go from little children all the way up to older adults. But the feelings chart, you never know what your children are dealing with. Like they go to school, we sometimes think that my day was busy and my day was exhausting, but children are also exhausted when they get home from just interacting with the world. Asking them, what color are you today? Are you red? Are you blue? Are you yellow? And they could just, use their hands. Even sign language is a art. So
Hmm.
just using different tools with your hands. And so the feeling chart was like one thing that I really enjoyed using as
Now,
a
is that something that you bought or something you all made together,
so
or
you
how did you
can
do it?
you
Hmm.
can buy it,
Okay.
but I like to use magazines. The
Okay.
circulators that come in, you can use different colors on the circulator. So make it as a collage, and then you
Hmm.
can actually cut it out in a circle. And we can use simple things like maybe like the bottom of a bowl to make a
Sure.
circle out of it. And then you
Sure.
can use a Sharpie to make eyes, maybe a sad face or a smiley face or exciting face. And that was the feelings chart was something that you could just create using free materials.
Yeah, I
Even like
like that because I
yeah.
know that when I was training in parent education, there were feelings charts that you could buy, but I actually like the idea of the magazines. It's just more interactive, finding the images that you want, and it really gives children some ownership of the
Mhm.
feelings chart. So
And
I
they
like
don't
that.
have to use scissors. They can actually just rip the paper up
Hmm.
because that also gives a different texture. Everything
Sure.
doesn't have to be perfect. So, this is the way of them utilizing just doing something with their hands. And so
Sure.
even with ripping stuff, it has a sound to it, but also has a texture. And that helps
Hmm.
children that has sensory,
Yes,
concerns and stuff. Mhm.
sensory motor challenges. Yeah, yeah. No, I like that a lot. That's a really good idea. I hope parents who are listening really think about that, especially with younger children,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because you talk about feelings, and I was talking about that earlier today in another workshop that I was
Mhm.
giving. But it is so important to be in touch with your feelings and to
Mhm.
teach your children that at a young age and to help them to learn to label their feelings so that they can then begin to distinguish between feeling afraid versus feeling excited, feeling left out, disrespected, unappreciated, all of these things. And a lot of times, what I was talking about too is that there's physiological changes that you experience with the feelings. So I am big on making sure they understand that at a young age, beyond happy, sad, mad, and glad, and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of
yeah.
that. There's so many layers. So
And it's also like with the feelings, with letting your children know that their feelings are valid. You can
yes,
be angry, you can be sad. Those are momentary things because even being happy is momentary. Some people say,
sure.
like, are you happy? Well, that's a
Mhm,
moment that I can be
mhm,
happy, but then I can also be content. So, how
mhm,
do I maneuver when I'm sad and angry? Because sometimes even just screaming will help to release some of that tension that's built up. So maybe
mhm,
even a child screaming inside of a pillow,
mhm.
or pulling something. That's why the putty or like Play-Doh is something good that they can pull. Different clothes you can just pull to release
Mhm,
some of that tension. And so it is
mhm,
actually, everything that we do is actually something creative. Um,
mhm,
if you
mhm.
look at it differently.
Right, right. And it kind of brings me to my next thought, and that was really about self-care and how you can bring artistic expression into that, and as well as mindfulness practices.
Mhm.
So talk a bit about that, about how parents can bring that into their daily routine with their
Sure.
children.
One that I've done with my children is bath time, the evening time. It's something simple, but I just can light some candles for the kids because that's something mommy does. Mommy puts the candles on, but bubble baths. You can also have little sponges, like they now have bath time paint.
Okay.
So,
Mm-hmm.
they can have paint and it washes off. But also, like I always like food coloring. I don't know why, but it's something. It's safe. It's safer, so you can actually change your bath water into different colors in
Okay.
with the food coloring, and
Mm-hmm.
and then this also teaches them how to blend colors because if you want
Mm-hmm.
a pink bathtub, like now, what colors are you going to use with that? So that gives you something to be creative with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, it sounds like there's a lot of fun happening over in your house. So how old are your children now?
My children are basically grown. So I have a 23-year-old, a 19-year-old, and then my baby, she just turned 17 last week.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Ah. And
Mhm.
so, how has your experience as an artist and a performer shaped your parenting style?
Sure. So as a performer, I am a poet, a performing poet, but my poetry is based off of storytelling. So the
Mhm.
way that I tell a story will be how I do poetry. And so with that, it was a lot of journaling that I did. And
Mhm.
that was something that I had my children to do. So say if my kids was upset with me because they're going to get upset with me and I'm going to get upset with them.
Sure.
Um, before you come to and you're upset, understand that you're upset. Let's talk about this once we calm down. But in
Mhm.
the meantime, you can write in the journal. You can actually write me a letter. So
Mhm.
that was actually introducing them into storytelling. Because
Mhm.
mommy, when you did this or when you said this, this made me feel like this. So they
Mhm.
don't know that I was actually teaching them creative writing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so now when they see me poet, they are like, oh, mom, like they are actually excited to see me poet. And I didn't realize that that was something that made them feel good. But
Mhm.
that's also has helped them to be creative writers as well.
You're back in the swing of school, homework, and soccer practice week after week. So, Mom, I'm wondering, are you feeling overwhelmed by meltdowns and backtalk? Struggling to connect with your kids? It's time for a change. Introducing the All Access Pass to the Parent and Purpose Summit Family First Edition. Learn from top experts in mental health, parenting strategies, and self care. Transform your family life with practical skills to guide your child's behavior in a positive way, reconnect as a family, practice life-changing self-care, and so much more. Invest in your family's happiness and your well-being. Don't miss the opportunity for real change. Grab your all-access pass now at parentandpurpose.com and step into a season of transformation and joy.
And that was the next thing I was going to ask you. Like, how have you seen those activities and those practices from when they were younger? How has that manifested in them now as young adults and soon to be young adults?
Yeah. So my girls are actually very creative.
Okay.
And when they were younger, I everything that we did was artsy. Like
Mhm.
everything from the time that we wake up in the morning, we could do motivational things. I was looking for this mason jar. So like mason jars like this, we have like motivational affirmations and we could pull
Okay.
it out before we leave out in the morning. Or even if
Mhm.
you're having a bad day, you may need a reminder. We use
Mhm.
that as well. Doing family worship, I made it very artsy with different magazines and videos and performances. We made skits. And then I am actually a seamstress,
Okay.
and I crochet. And so my girls, they didn't pick up the crochet, but but they do make clothes. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so they're very fashionistas, as you put it. And so I just had a festival during the summertime, and I had
Mhm.
my first fashion show. And
Oh,
some of the pieces were pieces that me and the girls have made over the years. Um,
okay.
yeah. So my daughter India, she has different businesses that she has used where she creates like phone cases and make redo like socks and put like different objects on it, stones, rhinestones, and different things like that. But yeah, my girls have actually took that on as far as being fashionistas. So if
Mhm.
you see us, we're very different when we dress. Is dramatic. But mostly everything that we wear we have made or upcycled it. So
Right, right.
mhm.
So I was going to ask too, how have you seen them use their creativity and artistic expression for mindfulness and their self-care? How has that shown up with them and helping them to cope with life's challenges because we all have them?
Sure. So I didn't realize how much of self-care I really do until I see my daughters do it. And
Okay.
some of it I actually take on myself. I'm like, oh, that's a tip I could use. They love like smelling good,
Okay.
and fragrances, but we actually can make them ourselves with essential oils.
Sure.
So I've seen my daughters make lip glosses, but also like we've made candles together. And those are things that and we also recreated a sensory bubbles baths and different things like that. So candles, bubble baths, smelling good. Those are things that they have used to like for self-care. Also, I love to put on like meditated music. And
Hmm.
so, especially during challenging times, I've noticed that my daughters are actually incorporating that as well, to kind of
Hmm.
calm down and stuff. We love like blankets and different things like that, but it's something, it makes us feel girly, but it's also a form of self-care, just kind of just soothing ourselves. Yeah.
Hmm. 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 And so, what kind of ideas do you have for parents to really incorporate it into their own self care? Like they've gotten the children taken care of. What can they do just for them?
So what they can do is journaling is always great. Even journaling out your day, it
Okay.
also actually helps in different situations. There were times that I had to go to the courthouse for my
Hmm.
children, and I actually had a journal that I had where I just mapped out the whole day. This is what happened. Maybe my child felt sad. She was angry. I had that journal, and it actually helped me win a case for my
Hmm.
child. So
Okay.
journaling was really, really good. And it was just a dual effect of actually being helpful. So
Hmm.
actually just, sometimes we have to see things that we're going through. And so that's a part of creative writing. But also having some time, some me time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just to just sit down and just relax and just don't do anything. Just some soft music, could be jazz, and just I love I want to say ambiance, but just like I love something that just makes me feel just, really good. And so
Mm-hmm.
I love candles. I love like lights, like flickery lights.
Sure.
And so just like dimming the lights and just actually just creating an environment for yourself is something really simple that you can do for you. And
Mm-hmm.
it has been very helpful for me. I also love grounding.
Talk about
So
that.
yeah, so I absolutely love grounding. So as I said, my mom, she would take me on walks, and it would be
Mm-hmm.
long walks, and we would like pay attention to our environment. So the leaves that's on the ground, just to pay attention to like the sun. The moon is one of my favorite things. But I love to put my feet in the grass and just ground.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes this is this park that's not far from my home. I'll actually walk there. It's not around a corner. It's a
Sure.
long walk, but I
Okay.
take that walk and I pay attention to my environments and just seeing like different artsy stuff to me. Everything is art to me,
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'll lay in the grass with a blanket and just actually just concentrate on my breathing, and just
Mm.
breathe and just actually like even, just touched myself, in an appropriate way, of course, but just actually just feeling your skin because the skin is something that just a touch is very healing.
Mm-hmm.
A healing part of you. So you can also, if you can't hug someone else, you can hug
Sure.
yourself.
Sure.
So I just
Sure.
hug myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
sometimes rock. And then if it's music on, then that's even better. But if not, if I'm outside and there's water nearby or there's the breeze, I can hear the animals, the birds. I can just, just pay attention to my surrounding, and then I'll just put my feet in the grass. Or if I'm not in the grass, I'll lay on the on the blanket, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
just hold myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually is very, very healing. It actually calms down your nervous system, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't worry about people wondering why I'm rocking. But if you actually remember when you were a baby or when you had your baby, you rocked your
Mm-hmm.
baby. And,
Mm-hmm.
they went to sleep that way,
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so another thing is that I'll do something like this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
very, very calming. But I also did that with my babies. And so
So
I
just
call myself,
rubbing your forehead.
yeah, just rubbing
Mm-hmm.
your forehead. You can rub your hands,
Mm-hmm.
tapping. But I also consider this actually self-care. But
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So I'm very in tune with my body, which
Mm-hmm.
is necessary so that you don't know if something's wrong or if you're feeling
Mm-hmm.
well, but you're actually able to, in an environment where there's a lot of people and maybe something has triggered you.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually just do some self-care stuff. I may rub, like my arms and maybe my legs. Nobody will know. I'll have my feet crossed. That's a part of grounding as well. And I'll just, I may have to rock a little bit or just
Mm-hmm.
rub myself, just my legs, just so
Mm-hmm.
that I can just ground, and
Okay.
bring myself back, balance myself out. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot, and what I like about what you're describing is that it only takes a few minutes.
Hmm.
You don't need equipment.
Hmm.
You just need the time and you need the commitment
Yeah.
to taking care of yourself in that way. So I like that. I think those are very good tips. So I want to ask you, as we're wrapping up, how can we follow you? What do you have going on?
Sure. So I started Tam Handcrafts in 2019, actually,
Hmm.
when I was going through a very challenging time of my life. I was actually going through a divorce.
Okay.
And a part of my Tam Handcrafts is where I would start creating stuff. So I was crocheting, I was making jewelry, I was sewing, making clothes. And Tam Handcrafts has advanced or evolved, I would say. It has evolved into something new because now I am an art coach. So not only do I do these things for myself, but I also help other people find a way to cope with different challenges that they may have doing different artistic practices. This does not take the away from talk therapy. I'm advocate for talk therapy. I've had 10 plus years of going to therapy, which is another form of self-care.
Self-care.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
so I've started a blog, and I will actually be doing more workshops and one-on-ones to help individuals to cope with different things. But you would see soon next year, I'll be starting my podcast with Tam Handcrafts and just interviewing different artists or individuals that use art as a form of therapeutic practices.
Okay, that should be very interesting. I look forward to seeing that or hearing that. So how can we follow you on social media, your website, or any of those places?
Yeah, so I'm Miss TeeKay on Instagram.
I'll spell that for our
Yes.
listeners.
MSTEE.KAY. I'm also under Tam's Handcrafts. So that's TAMS Handcrafts with an S. And that's also my website, www.tamshandcrafts.com. So you can find me on those platforms, yeah. And I'm on Facebook under Tam Handcrafts and Pinterest. So I have a lot of artistic deprogramming articles and different and Linktree. So
right. Yeah, I can imagine somebody like you would really love Pinterest. I still can't figure out why I need Pinterest, but anyway, I know it's very popular, and certainly as I learn more about what you do, I know that you are all over Pinterest. You've got that all, you've got that all figured out. So thank you so much for joining. And for our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And just remember that every moment of creativity that you could share with your child can be a step towards deeper connection and growth and joy. So just keep creating, keep connecting, and just keep parenting with your heart. And thank you again for joining. And here at the Parenting 411, you know that we are very big on making meaningful connections with children. And so what better way to do it than offline? Like, for example, all of the things that Miss TeeKay talked about tonight have been offline, free of technology pretty much. So I want to encourage you to grab our comprehensive, it's Connected Hearts, Digital Smarts, 25 Ways to Connect with Your Kids Offline. You can head on over to offlineconnectionguide.com and grab the tools and resources you need to make it happen. And I want you to be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Parenting 411 podcast. Share this episode with your friends. If you want, you can also head on over to YouTube. You can watch it. Of course, you can also listen to it on all of your favorite podcast platforms. And as always, I want you to remember that it is never too late to be the parent you want to be. See you next time.
Bye.
We bring you this episode for the purpose of information and entertainment only. It is not the intent or purpose of the Parenting 411 podcast or Carol Muleta to provide an exhaustive reference or guide on all aspects of parenting, childcare, and family life. You are strongly encouraged to read all available information, consult medical or other appropriate professionals, and pursue all reasonable means to learn as much as possible about parenting to complement what you gain here, and then tailor the information to meet your individual needs. Yes, parenting is a serious matter, though it is not an exact science. The context and insights offered in this and every episode represent an account of knowledge and personal experiences of the host and any featured guests for the viewers' and listeners' information and consideration. The host and guests do not guarantee to our viewers or listeners any specific parenting outcomes from this episode or taking actions described here.